So today's episode is a bottle lightning 2-for-1. Two chart-dominating tracks whose artists disappeared into thin air shortly after. But check this out. It was the same singer. Two completely different bands. This guy was a one-hit wonder twice for separate groups. Now, the first was a Guinness World Record #1 hit, and the second was a runner-up the very next year. But you know what? It gets even more unbelievable. That's because band number one had been broken up for years when their song finally hit #1. It's a lot to unravel. Really cool story. We're bringing you this rare tale of two bands, one singer, and two one-hit wonders. It's coming up next on Professor of Rock. Hey, music junkies, Professor of Rock, always here to celebrate the greatest artists and the greatest songs of all time. You know, if you've ever tried to get away with a BS word that doesn't exist in Scrabble when you're playing your family or friends, you're going to dig this channel. Nostalgia all the time. Make sure that you subscribe below right now. It's your daily time machine. We also have a Patreon that supports our interview efforts, and you get more insider content. Plus, for Christmas presents, we have our merch right below our Vintage Years collection. You can check that out. So it's high time for another edition of our series Bottle Lightning, where we celebrate a song or an album that was king for a day or for many days. You know, here we honor artists and bands that rocketed up the chart, but for reasons unknown, they disappeared after that. A lot of people call them one-hit wonders. We like to celebrate them as lightning in a bottle. Now, previous episodes, we covered She Drives Me Crazy by Fine Young Cannibals, where those guys had like 3 hits, a big album, and then they were gone. And then What's on Your Mind, Pure Energy by Information Society. Tell me what's on your mind. Today we're giving you a Bottle Lightning double dose with 2 songs that ruled the charts, a #1 and a #2 hit. Now the catch is that even though they're from 2 different bands, they're actually both sung by the same lead singer. Let's see if you can get it. The singer, his name is Freddy Curci. The other Freddy, if you will. Great voice. The first song is When I'm With You by Sheriff. The second one is More Than Words Can Say by Alias. The 5-member Canadian band Sheriff formed in 1979. Freddy Curci was the last to join the group, and it was actually his first rock band. From an early age, the Canadian native spent more time listening to and singing classical opera music than rock and roll. By the time he was a teenager, Freddie was singing in Italian wedding bands in and out of Toronto. And that's how he got connected with Sheriff in the first place. One of the banquet hall owners where Eddie Gigg got him an audition with the band. Now, Sheriff was his cousin's band. Sheriff was already comprised of Steve DeMarchi on guitar. There was Wolf Hassel on bass, Arnold Lanny on keyboards, and Rob Elliott on drums. Now, the audition went really well, despite the fact that Curci had no rock and roll experience or apparently much knowledge of the genre at all. Said Freddie, "When I first joined Sheriff, I didn't know a lot of rock stuff, and I went and auditioned, and they said, 'Do you know Van Halen?' And I said, 'Van who?' You know, but working in Freddie Curci's favor was, of course, his phenomenal voice. I mean, rock novice or not, Freddie Curci could really belt. He could really sing. It was a talent he would strengthen by swimming underwater and holding his breath for as long as possible. The AOR band, they were impressed with what he could do, and they told him, you know, he was in. They did give him some homework, though. They sent him home with the classic rock stylings of Boston and Styx, as I understand it. Sheriff became quite popular in the club circuit in Ontario, and they attracted the attention of Capitol Records Canada after sending a cassette to A&R director named Dean Cameron. The demo contained a nearly completed album. Capitol was so impressed with the recordings that label reps braved a 15-seat light aircraft flight to Kirkland Lake, Ontario. There they caught Sheriff live at a local hotel. The band was signed, and a deal not long after that. Sheriff released a self-titled album in 1982, and the single You Remind Me reached number 28 on the Canadian RPM chart. But it was their power ballad, When I'm With You, that made the most noise. It climbed to number 8 north of the border. When I'm With You was the softest offering on the Sheriff album.
Maybe it's the way you touch me.
It was written by keyboardist Arnold Lanni as a Valentine's gift for his girlfriend. I guess he was too broke to buy her an actual present at that time. But it worked out pretty well for him because she loved the song, and apparently they got married about 2 years later. Sheriff, however, hadn't planned to put this song on the album at all. But when their producer, Stacey Hayden, asked near the end of the sessions, if the guys had anything else left to put on or to bring for him to hear, Lanni mentioned that they had another song, but he said, it's kind of wimpy.
Love is what I feel.
Wimpy or not, Hayden liked it, and he insisted that they put it on the record. When I'm With You, it follows a familiar power ballad formula. The first power chord kicks in as the chorus begins. Then Curci's voice jumps up a couple of notches, wailing the word baby in dramatic fashion. And it really does read like a Hallmark card, let's be honest. I mean, maybe it's the way you touch me with the warmth of a sun. Maybe it's the way you smile. I come all undone. When Capitol decided to release When I'm With You as a single, Freddy Curci asked to re-record his original vocals, and the result was accidentally incredible. In this revised version, Curci stretched out his final falsetto note for a total of 19.3 seconds. Apparently, producer Stacey Hayden was supposed to fade Curci out, but I guess he never did. So to be funny, Curci just kept holding the note. Said Freddy Curci, the thing was that it was a gag. The only way for them to finish the song was for me to stop, so I wouldn't stop. And they finally finished it anyway, but I just kept singing. That basically was just a joke. Joke or not, that extended note earned Curci a place in the Guinness Book of World Records, specifically for the category of the longest held vocal note in a U.S. hit single. I guess Freddie beat out a couple of other U.S. chart-topping vocal contenders to get that distinction, including Donna Summer's Dim All the Lights and Air Supply's All Out of Love. Both of those singers reached, 16 and a half seconds. Now, unfortunately for Sheriff, Curci's note lasted almost as long as their career after they released the record. Although When I'm With You reached the top 10 in Canada, promotion and distribution problems, that stalled the band's momentum in the US. And here in America, the song only reached number 61 on the Hot 100. And reports of fans not being able to buy the records in stores, that hampered Sheriff's American tour altogether. Soon after, Capitol dropped them. Sheriff never released another album, and the band broke up. I think it was in '85. Afterwards, keyboardist Arnold Lanni and bassist Wolf Hassel, they formed a new band called Frozen Ghost, who held their own in Canada for a few years. Stateside, their 1987 single Should I See peaked at number 69, but that was their only Hot 100 appearance ever again. As we continue to break down these songs, I do want to thank our sponsor, Zenni Eyewear, the glasses I always wear. With Christmas coming, it's the perfect time to snag some new frames for you and your family, your friends, and add all the great Zenni features like blue blocks to protect your eyes from digital blue light. Seriously, surprise your family with new glasses. Download the Zenni app today for the latest deals, starting at $6.95. You know what? Curci and DeMarchi had a reformation of their own. And without a label, they decided they were going to need a studio. So they got day jobs as couriers. They went to the bank and they got a loan, and they built a recording studio in Steve's basement. For 4 years, from 1985 to 1989, Freddie and Steve spent their days delivering packages in Toronto and working on their music at night. Very dedicated. As Steve would recall, he said, "We did a lot of riding on the road, delivering packages. We'd pull over, phone our answering machines, and sing. And we wouldn't forget and race home, pick up the guitar, and just take it from there." Their efforts produced enough material for a new album under a new band name. It was called Alias. However, just as they were finishing their record, they were hit with an unexpected blast from the past. When I'm With You, it made an improbable comeback, garnering massive airplay across the US and making strides up the charts. It was an uncommon phenomenon. But this kind of sort of happened a lot, well, at least a few times in the 80s. Rogue DJs would reintroduce a long-forgotten song that was a personal favorite. And sometimes it would just take off. Exhibit A. Into the Night by Benny Mardones. We've actually interviewed Benny about this. It initially charted at number 11 on the Hot 100 in 1980, and then in 1989 the song was re-released after Aware they now feature on an Arizona radio station. This led to renewed interest in the song after program director Scott Shannon added it to his playlist in LA, and the radio stations across the country jumped on the bandwagon. Actually, a new version of Into the Night was released, and it reached number 20 in the Hot 100. Exhibit B, Red Red Wine by UB40. Well, it happened again with Sheriff's When I'm With You. As Freddie tells it, there was a DJ in Las Vegas named Jay Taylor who loved the song. Jay had been playing it off and on through the years, but then in 1988, the telephone line started blowing up over the song. It went to number 1 in Vegas for like 6 or 7 weeks. After getting this unbelievable response, Jay called Capitol Records and said, "Your Sheriff song is a smash." Capitol Records was like, "What Sheriff song?" Taylor explained, what was happening, and the label begrudgingly re-released the record. Other stations around the country also got wind of what was happening. They added the song to their playlists, and the rest is history. After that, Freddie got a call from the president of Capitol Canada. Remember Dean Cameron? He said, "Freddie, how are you? Do you realize that you're going to have a number 1 record?" Now, perplexed, Freddie replied, "Our record isn't out yet. It's still hard at work with Steve on the Alias debut." Freddie thought that Dean was talking about his new band Alias. No, the Sheriff song, When I'm With You. Then Dean brought Freddie up to speed. Now, by February 4th, 1989, the 7-year-old song had gone all the way to number 1 on the Hot 100. And it's actually 60 spots better than its original run. But this time, there was no band, there was no music video, there were no concerts, nothing to back this thing up. This would have been the perfect moment for a Sheriff reunion. Freddie and Steve were receiving endless calls from managers across Canada wanting to know if they were putting the band back together and if they were going to go on tour to support the song. I think reporters even tracked them down for interviews while they were out delivering their packages. But you know what? The Frozen Ghost half of the band, they didn't want to reunite to promote the song. Curci and DeMarchi, they were all for it, even though they were an Alias. They even considered the name Sheriff too. But it never happened. Said Freddie, Capitol wanted the band to reform, and it made sense. They wanted to make a video, but when they saw that there wasn't going to be any cooperation, Steve and I just effectively moved on. You think about those moments in life where it all comes together, and this was a moment that could have been the opportunity of a lifetime for this band, and ego got in the way. So sad. Well, bolstered by the resurrection of When I'm With You, Freddie and Steve plowed ahead with Alias. The album would be a labor of love 5 years in the making. And when the rough mixes were complete, the pair shopped them around, and they attracted offers from 3 major labels. Just like in the old days, they actually signed with Capitol Records, even though they dropped them. Interesting. Now, through their management, DeMarchi and Curci were introduced to former Heart drummer Mike DeRozier, who at the time was on tour with Richard Marx. After hearing a demo tape, DeRozier asked to join them. Now the trio just needed a bass player and another guitarist. Cue Heart founding members Roger Fisher and Steve Fossen. They were back in Seattle with some time on their hands. The 3 former Heart members Now, they didn't have a hand in writing the music for Alias's debut, but when they filled in the gaps, they gave the band something of a supergroup feel, or at least that's how they were promoted. Alias's first single, Haunted Heart, that failed to chart on the Hot 100, but it did peak at number 18 on the mainstream rock chart. Their second single, that would put them on the map. The 1990 hit, More Than Words Can Say. That entered the Hot 100 at number 84, and it reached the top 10 about 4 weeks later, on November 24th, 1990.
I need you now.
More Than Words Can Say also peaked at number 2 on the AC charts, and it went to number 13 on the Album Rock Tracks chart. In Canada, the song reached number 1 on November 24th, and it stayed there for 4 weeks. It's actually Canada's second highest selling single in 1990, just behind Phil Collins' I Wish It Would Rain Down.
Yes, I wish it would rain down.
Outside North America, More Than Words Can Say, it was less popular. It peaked at number 30 in Australia, and it went to number 37 in New Zealand, I believe. Perhaps part of the credit for the song's success is thanks to how similar it was to When I'm With You. I mean, you think about it, the two songs bear some striking similarities, included that extended last note.
I need you now.
Now, one interesting aside, although the actual title of the song is More Than Words Can Say, a lot of people thought it was called I Need You Now. More than likely, that's because the phrase I need you now is the most prominent and repeated part of the chorus. It's what people remember. Really, the line More Than Words Can Say almost seems like an afterthought in comparison.
Words can say I need you now.
And naming the song More Than Words Can Say, it actually brings back bad memories for me of this song. Regardless, any title confusion, it did nothing to slow down the momentum of the song. Alias also released a third single in the US. It was called Waiting for Love, and that one peaked at number 4 in Canada. It actually went to number 13 here in the Hot 100, so technically Alias wasn't a one-hit wonder. But in Bottle Lightning context, I mean, does anyone remember that second hit? It's tough to follow up a smash hit like that, for sure. But after that, Alias just vanished. They vanished about as quickly as Sheriff had years before. A North American tour did follow the album's release through 1990, including a stint as the opening act for REO Speedwagon. But while they were touring, the trio of former Heart musicians left the band, citing musical differences. In 1991, the remaining members of Alias released a song called Perfect World on the Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead soundtrack. That's a blast from the past.
This ain't no perfect world.
And though Alias started work on a follow-up album, it would be shelved in the wake of the grunge tidal wave of the early 90s. According to Freddy Curci, Alias never formally disbanded. He said, Alias never split. Music changed. We couldn't get our music out there. No one wanted to hear it anymore. Grunge was in, and you know what? That's okay, because music needs to do that. It needs to change all the time. That's how it stays fresh. Alias is still Steve and I. Alias will always be Steve and I. End of quote. In 1994, Freddy Curci released his first solo album, Dreamer's Road. Years later, Curci became a songwriter for the motion picture industry. For example, Freddie composed for the sitcom Two Guys and a Girl in 2000 and 2001 with Ryan Reynolds. In 2007, his songs were also featured in multiple episodes of Army Wives. As for Steve DeMarchi, he went on to become a touring guitarist for the Cranberries from 96 to 2003. Between 2005 and 2007, Dolores O'Riordan, the voice of the Cranberries, and DeMarchi recorded O'Riordan's first solo record titled Are You Listening? So although it seemed these guys disappeared into thin air, they were just hiding in plain sight, actually. January 2009, Alias announced the release of their long-delayed second album. The album title, Never Say Never, had sat unreleased for 18 years. A few of the songs from this lost album were re-recorded and appeared on Curci's solo album, Dreamer's Road, but the rest had really remained unreleased. And although the Heart Trio did not return, in 2014, former Sheriff Frozen Ghost bassist Wolf Hassel joined Alias. So that put 3 out of the 5 original Sheriff bandmates in Alias, if you can keep track of that. Yeah, I actually remember calling an Idaho station when I was growing up. It was called Z103. And I dedicated this song to a girl that I was going with. Remember, my dad always asked me, so where are you going? We were going together for about 6 days. The night after I dedicated this song to her, she broke up with me with a short note that she slipped into my locker that just said, you're dumped. I guess she didn't like the song. I was devastated as any young teen would be. And a few hours later, I noticed that she was holding hands with this guy, this buff dude who had hair on his exposed chest and a gold chain. He had a nickname too. Believe it or not, it was Sheriff.
I'm with you.
Seriously, leave us a comment about Sheriff and Alias and the Ball of Lightning duo of When I'm With You and More Than Words Can Say. What do you remember about these songs? Which one is your favorite? And what do you think of Freddy Curci's voice? I thought he had an incredible voice. Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoy our content, make sure to subscribe below so you never miss out on our daily videos. We'd love to have you as part of this community. Have some discussions about music. Let us know what you'd like to see next. And check us out on Patreon and our merch. Until next time, 3 chords and the truth, my friends.